Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Boobies and Newbies. You can follow us at Boobies Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And if you'd like to support the podcast and get a little extra bonus Boobies content every month, you can support us on Patreon at Boobies Podcast. Welcome to Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today I'm joined by Morgan Spatola, co-host of the upcoming, soon-to-release podcast, The Broads and the Bees. Welcome, Morgan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you, especially with such a fun podcast title as yours.
Oh, thank you so much.
I have to ask, where did the name Broads and the Bees come from?
So, unfortunately, I can't take credit for it as much as I would like to. When I was coming up with this show, we were, bouncing ideas around, and I ended up asking the podcasting group that, I think you and I met on a different podcasting group.
Okay.
Regardless, I'm in a podcasting group, and I pitched the show and said, hey, any ideas on this? And my good friend Jeff Richardson of the Everything is Awesome podcast actually came up with the name. And so so he named it, so he gets all the credit for that.
Well, thanks to him. Okay, that's what friends are for, right?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, and you and I met in the Lady Pod Squad Facebook group, which,
that's right.
If anybody out there is a female, non-binary identifying podcaster, or even if you're just thinking about starting a podcast, you should definitely check out all the groups that have been created on Facebook, on Twitter, and everything. They're a great resource. Apparently, you meet people that give your podcast amazing names, like Morgan did. So, it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I love. I'm just part of the two, the Lady Pod Squad, and then the other one is Mabim Bambino podcasters. So fans of the McElroy family of products that also do podcasting, and it's a both of them are fantastic groups. I love them both. So
that's awesome. Well, we're glad to have you in the podcast fam.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
It really is a family too. Like once you kind of jump into things, like everybody wants you to like be part of the family.
It's true. And I feel like in the podcasting community, like everybody wants to see everyone else succeed. So whatever we can do to help each other is like, it feels really good to know that everyone's got your back.
Yeah, absolutely. I got your back, girl. I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay, so when it comes to the Broads and the Bees, we know that, a friend of yours was nice enough to recommend a podcast title, but what is the show about?
The show, put simply, is about sex and sexuality between generations, and I think that's the best way I've described it so far. So I'm going to make note of that. But
that's going to be the new tagline.
Yeah. So I work at a sex shop, and I met my co-host also working there. She no longer works there, but we have remained friends. She is literally twice my age. So I'm 26 years old. My co-host Joy Sass is 52, and we both share a passion for educating about sex and sexuality. So she approached me about this show that she wanted to do, and I gave it a thought, and I said, yeah, I can't think of, a better use of my time than to do something that we both share a passion for and that we both enjoy talking to each other about. So, that's basically what it was born from. So we pick a topic every single week, and we pick kind of like a micro topic within that topic umbrella, and we just kind of dive in deep to it. And that way, there's so much to talk about, so it's going to keep going forever probably. But
of course,
yeah. And so and that's pretty much it. And then we just kind of compare, generational notes here and there where it comes up, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun so far.
I mean, it sounds like fun because I have to say, I podcast about romance and erotica. So clearly I enjoy the topic of sex as well. So I love this idea, though, of not only talking about sex, sexuality, sexual health, but also talking about it between different generations. I feel like that's so unique and not like an angle that I've seen yet on a podcast. So I think that's awesome. I can't wait to listen to it.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, that's good that we have something unique going for us. I'm glad to hear that.
I mean, as long as you just lead in with, I'm a 26-year-old and my podcast co-host is in her 50s and we both work in a sex shop. I'm like, excuse me, I will listen to anything you have to say. Like, that is all the introduction I need.
That's perfect.
I have to ask, because what's it like just working in a sex shop? I actually shot a short web series episode in one recently, and everyone was so nice. And I was always like that friend where when we turned 18, I'd be the one to like take the person to the sex shop to like get their first vibrator and everything. Like, I love it. I love going to these places. I love going to workshops there. So tell me about your experience working in one.
It is unlike any job I've ever had. I did not have any experience in retail before getting this job, and
better. That's even better.
Yeah. And I was just like, I like this store. I like shopping here, and I need a job, so I'm just gonna try it out. Obviously the topic is something I was interested in before and knowledgeable about, so it's only gotten, my knowledge has only grown since then. But yeah, it's wild. It ranges anywhere from just like, total weird birds that you imagine, to really touching interactions with clients that just are coming in looking for solutions. And we know how to do that. So it's really cool. It's a super fun job. If anyone's ever thinking about working at a sex shop, I recommend it. I think it's awesome.
I have to tell you, I actually applied to work at a sex shop like fairly recently. And
really?
I was just like, oh my gosh, this is meant to be. Like, I just talked to Morgan about doing an episode. Like,
yes.
This is so meant to be. And they didn't get back to me for like the longest time.
Oh,
and
no.
they finally called me back and asked if I wanted to do an interview. And I was like, absolutely.
Good.
And so I told them yes, and then I didn't hear back from them for like days, and I called back again to see like, hey, it's me. I still want to work there. And they were like, oh, we didn't hear from you. I'm like, you don't check your voicemail then.
Yeah,
because like,
what?
I want to work there. They had already hired somebody else.
Oh, no.
I was like, okay, this is just the sign that it wasn't meant to be this time around. But I will not give up this dream of working in a sex shop at some point.
Yeah, you just need to try a different company.
Yes, this just was not meant to be the sex shop. Like, I need to find the sex shop. Maybe exactly. I need to move to, where are you? You're in Arizona, right?
I'm in Arizona, yeah.
Great. Are you hiring?
Yes, absolutely. Come on down. We really are. So if anyone needs a job.
There you go. Hey, you know what? We might laugh, but honestly, like, there are times where I'm like, maybe I'm done with LA.
Hey, it's definitely different out here. So it's, you're more than welcome.
Oh, that's interesting too, though, because you are in Arizona, and isn't Arizona like, aren't they a little more on the more conservative side in general?
Yeah, they are. So we get those people too.
Interesting.
We aren't, there's not a lot of, I feel like in California, there's more sex shop companies, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Here in Arizona, there are 2, and then we also have a Hustler in Phoenix, and that's it.
Oh my gosh.
So that's it. It's just 2, and then any other ones are just like kind of weird, like one-off places that everybody avoids, like that
Yeah.
one that you're like, well, I don't want to go in there.
Yeah, of course.
But as far as chains go, yeah, we just have the 2, and I think that is reflective of the conservativeness of the state. The company itself obviously is not. It's right. Extremely liberal, obviously, but it's interesting because we will get folks that come in like that you can tell, that they're either very religious, yet they're still in the sex shop, or they're super conservative politically, and then I get to see what kind of sex they're having, basically.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like if you're coming in and you're like trying to hide it, I'm like, you're into something real freaky, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah. Love it. You let that freak flag fly. I love it.
Exactly. I'm like, just embrace yourself.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. So I have to say when I was younger and my parents and I would road trip from California, we would go the other way. We'd go up to like Oregon and Washington area. And, it's so funny when you think of like the Pacific Northwest, it's like, lots of trees and mountains and hiking and everything. I have never seen so many porn shops in one state as I have in Oregon.
Oh my gosh.
You would just drive through and there would be drive-through coffee kiosks and a porn shop. Like any freeway exit all over. And I was just like, this is not the image that I feel like most people have of Oregon.
Really? I know. That's so crazy.
Yeah. I don't know if that's changed in like the last 10 years, but I know that is something I will always remember about Oregon.
That's hilarious. I'm going to ask my sister. She's 19 and she lives up there right now for college. So I'm going to get off this call and bug her about it later.
There you go. There you go. This is all the things we learned today on the podcast.
Yeah, I'll report back.
Wonderful. Okay, so when does The Broads and the Bees drop so everybody can find you and listen?
Yes, our first episode drops on October 15th. We are already on all podcasting platforms that I know of, and if there isn't one, definitely hit us up on Twitter and we can get on it. We have our trailer out for season 1 now, so you can download and subscribe and listen to that. But yeah, the first episode will be out on October 15th.
Fantastic. And where can people find you guys on social media?
Yeah, so we only have Twitter right now, and we are at Broads and Bees on Twitter. We are part of the Scavengers Network, and Scavengers Network is basically on all social media, so if you find them, you'll find us as well.
Ooh, I'll have to check Scavengers out. I'm not as familiar with that network, so I'm going to have to scope it out.
It's a fun place. We have fun.
Yay! Scavenging the Scavengers Network. Sounds like something for me to do this week. Okay, well, I think it is on to the romance for the day.
Let's do it.
Morgan and I are going to be discussing the novella Mating the Huntress, an interracial romance by Talia Hibbert. I hope I said that right. I know she's British, and I follow her on Twitter, and I love reading what she has to say, and I'm not sure if it's Talia or Talia. So apologies in advance, Miss Hibbert. This paranormal erotic romance features werewolves, badass females, and nasty, nasty cake batter covered sexcapades. It was published this time last year, October 2018. It's available on Amazon for just 99 cents, Kindle edition. Perfect for all your Halloween, spooky, sexy reading needs. So, as I mentioned, it is a novella. It's very short. How long did this take you to read, Morgan?
It took me, over the course of like 3 days because I was busy. Probably like an hour to, no, not an hour, like an hour and a half to 2 hours probably. Yeah,
it's a quick read. I mean, it really is only maybe like a third of like what a typical romance novel is. So it's definitely a quick one. 136 pages according to Amazon. So this is definitely one where it's like if you had like a plane ride and you needed something to read, you could definitely read the whole book in like
for sure.
one ride.
And I prefer that length when I'm doing ebooks because I don't know. I just like being able to get through stuff fast. So it feels like a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to work too hard for it.
Exactly. And you know what? It limits your screen time. You're not staring at a screen for so long. I totally get it.
Yeah, because I read mine on my phone. I know like they did the Kindle device for a while, and I don't know how many people have those, but I just download stuff on my phone these days.
I do too. And you know what? I have a tablet, which I use as like a Kindle too, but it's just so much easier for me to like hold my phone and read and not drop it like on my face like I would a Kindle. Right. Yeah. People who have Kindles, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Like I don't know anybody that has not dropped their Kindle on their face at some point.
They need to make like giant Kindle pop sockets.
Yes.
so that you can hold it better.
Oh my gosh. I hope there probably is one and I just don't know. But you know what? I'm satisfied with my phone reading. It seems like you are too. So
yes, definitely.
We'll stick with that. I know that when we had talked about what you were interested in reading, you mentioned that you had read some romance before.
Just a little bit and not much. Like freebie, like you Google literotica, basically.
Yes.
Like I've never actually read a romance novel. This is like for sure my first time reading a tried and true romance novel, which is very exciting. And yeah, I don't know, it was my first time because I'm not into, like, when I think of genres that I like to read about, romance is not at the top of my list.
Gotcha.
And maybe it's because I'm a little bit cynical or something, like that kind of stuff. I'm always just like, okay, come on, whatever. But I actually really enjoyed myself. So,
okay.
And I remember I sent you a few messages where I was like, oh my God, this is like already ridiculous. But
in the best way possible.
Yeah. Right. No, in a very good way. Like I've definitely learned to appreciate the tropes now because that's what it's all about.
Right. So is it safe to say you kind of came into romance thinking that it was maybe on like the cheesier side and like a little too like stereotypical?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that was my attitude. But I think the tropes are like what draw people to romance, you know, and the tropes are also what I was feeling cynical about. But I think what you have to do is just kind of take it at face value and be like, this is why people appreciate this. So I need to accept this and appreciate it for what it is. And I think I can do that now.
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad to hear it. And yeah, you're totally right. I mean, it really is. It's all about the tropes. It's all about kind of this understanding that you're coming into something knowing, it's the same as you would with a Hallmark movie or a rom-com in the theaters, that it's very much going to end a specific way.
Right.
And there's going to be, some leaps and bounds along the way. There's going to be some sort of misunderstanding or moment where they might not end up together. And even in a novella, even in something as short as this, you still have all the trademarks that you would see in a full-length romance novel.
Oh, yeah, because you have to hit those beats, otherwise it's not like a believable romance.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so, well, good. I'm glad you came into it with like an open mind and you left with, what sounds like a positive feeling.
Yeah, no, I feel like I definitely have a better appreciation of the genre than I may have in the past. So
awesome.
It was a good experience overall.
Good. I'm glad. Okay, well, before we get into the nitty-gritty details about mating the Huntress, let me give everyone the very brief, and I do mean very brief, Amazon synopsis. Here you go. This Halloween, love bites back hard. Chastity Adofo knows a monster when she sees one. As soon as Luke Anthony wanders into her family's coffee shop, she recognizes the evil lurking beneath his charming smile and fantastic arse. The handsome werewolf is determined to have her, but she's determined to cut out his heart. Little does she know, Luke's plans for her are far more pleasurable than murder. And when the full moon rises, all bets are off. That's it.
It's good. It's very good.
It's short, sweet, to the point. I think if you are not familiar with Talia Hibbert, I'm sorry what your name is. I'm going to go with Talia. I'm going to say Talia.
I think Talia.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with that.
Let's go Talia Hibbert. If you're not familiar with Talia Hibbert's work, she is a British author, and I think you can kind of figure that out both in the synopsis and not too far into the book. I mean, they use a lot of vernacular that's very much associated with Britain, and they call cookies biscuits. And just in the synopsis, they use the word arse instead of ass. So was that something you picked up on like fairly quickly?
It did take me a second because at first I think she said arse like, I don't know, probably almost immediately, like 5 pages in the book, it's a romance. But I was like, is she just doing that as like a fun style choice? And then finally I was like, oh no, it's in England. Duh. Like, it did take me a second.
Well, and it's not, there's like some romances where depending on where and when they take place, like the language is so heavy. Like, this is why I'm not as big of a fan, and people will fight me on this. I'm not as big of a fan of Scottish Highlander romances.
Oh God.
Just because a lot of authors who write them will actually write the characters' dialogue as very thick Scottish accents, and it takes a while to kind of piece things together. This is not one of those. This is not one of those.
No, it's very easy to know what they're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can figure out arse and biscuit, because I did when he said biscuit at first, I was like, oh my God, this coffee shop serves biscuits? Awesome. Like, I am all about a coffee shop with biscuits. But
right, we're thinking Southern biscuits, but they meant cookies.
Maybe some jams and butters. Right. Like, I'd be cool with that. But either way, I mean, biscuit as a biscuit or biscuit as a cookie, I'm fine with that.
Oh, for sure.
So we do have our main character is Chastity. I feel like one of the first messages you sent me about the book was, oh my God, this girl's name is Chastity.
I just like, and I think I still have, like, I'm still mad about it. I think it's kind of cute because in the book they call her Chaz, like for short, which is like pretty cute. But also, like, seriously, like, you're like, did you have to do that? Like, you had to call her Chastity for your romance novel? Like, I think that was just so much, in my opinion.
Well, and her sister's name is Victory, and I think it was her brother whose name was Justice.
Yeah, they have these, like, weird, like, biblical, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like, biblical, like, value names or something.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where I was kind of like it is very biblical. I mean, even Luke Anthony, like, that's very
that's
biblical. True. I mean, this is based on my very limited knowledge of the Bible, but
right.
That being said, it's one of those things where I don't usually think about character names, but when you have characters with strong ass names like Chastity, Victory, Justice, it's almost like then I can't not think about it. Like, I'm sort of like, why is her name Chastity? Like, chastity, that implies she's chaste, very pure, you know, like, and that was not sort of that character, like, at least my reading of her. So
right, not at all.
Yeah. So again, it's not a big important thing about the book, but it was something that I'm with you. I was kind of like, Chastity? Why Chastity? Like, I'm not sure.
It would have made more sense if it was some kind of, I mean, maybe this would have been too cheesy, but if she was like, you know, virginal or something, and like unaware about the world, and so that's like a big metaphor, but instead it's just like the complete opposite of what her character is. So it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't sure. Yeah, because there's like, you know, and what's great about this story is, at least what I liked about it is it's very magical. Like, I mean, you have the whole element of, you know, when Chastity was a baby, there was like an oracle that delivered this prophecy that if Chastity became a huntress, you know, her first kill would rip out her own heart. And you have werewolves and you have this whole family of hunters and huntresses. But at the same time, it takes place in like what seems like contemporary small village Britain, because they work at like a coffee shop.
Yeah. Well, and can I just say, like, I'm into that.
I am too.
For a first romance novel, like something with a fantasy element is like what gets me, because I'm a big fantasy nerd. So I was like all about it. And I really enjoyed, first off, with the prophecy, the way that they kind of treated it, where she was like, oh, the stupid prophecy. And then, like, I don't know, her sister was like, well, you know, the prophecy, but like very casual. So it was kind of funny. And then I'm reading the first chapter and, you know, she's walking into the coffee shop that their family owns. And in my head, I was like, holy shit, like you know, a family of werewolf hunters that runs a coffee shop. Like, that is so cool. Yeah. Like, what a fun concept. I'm so excited to explore that. So it just really struck a chord with me. I think I'm super into that whole idea.
Well, I'm glad. That's awesome. And you know what? This is so outside of my typical wheelhouse. Like,
oh, yeah, really?
Like fantasy and paranormal romance are generally kind of, I don't want to say it's not that I dislike them. It's just that they're sort of like on the last of my list of the types of romance that I want to read. Not because I don't like them, but because there's other romance genres that I like better.
Right.
And so this one I was like, okay, werewolf. Okay, we haven't done that in a while. But I kind of liked the mix of the contemporary of just them owning this coffee shop. But then at the same time, there's this, everyone's very chill and knows about the existence of werewolves and cool. everything.
Yeah.
I liked that it wasn't like just some big secret. It was like, everybody knows what's going on. Like, I can see this guy's a werewolf.
Yeah, no, and that's like an attractive premise to me, is like that mix of the contemporary is something I really enjoy when I'm reading, so.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the show True Blood or read the books?
No, I never got into that one.
Okay.
See, because I'm not like, what I like is the mix of fantasy in like a contemporary setting, but I'm not usually into vampires and werewolves, so.
Okay, got it. But you made an exception for Luke Anthony.
I had to, yeah.
Well, you know what? How could you not? He's like the most charming person ever.
Oh, he's adorable. He was totally adorable.
Yeah.
I loved him from the first page.
I have to say, I really loved a lot of the characters. Like, and granted, again, it's a very short book, but, and so there's not a ton of characters in this story, but our main characters, we have Chastity and we have Luke, and they're obviously the people that fall in love. And it's very like Romeo and Juliet, you know, where he's the werewolf and she comes from the family of werewolf hunters, and it's just not meant to be. And
it's not natural.
Yeah,
that's what she kept saying.
This guy would charm the pants literally off of anybody. Like, he is delightful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his whole inner monologue was just, it was really fun to read, because his whole thing too is that he doesn't socialize a whole lot.
Right.
And so like he gets really awkward and like embarrassed about it. And so like watching his attempts to do that was just, it was delectable. I really liked it.
Yeah. I liked his whole kind of backstory too of, you know, I was raised by, you know, my parents who are both werewolves. So like, I don't talk to a lot of people. I went through, it's so funny when he talks about how he went through the phase of like killing people.
Yeah, I know.
It's like he talks about it like it was like puberty. Like, I went through this phase where, you know, I was just so upset and angry all the time. So I'd go out and like kill people as a werewolf. But, you know, they were bad people, so it's okay.
I know. It's like so much. Like, I'm like... Yeah, like you could tell the author was like, well, I need to justify this somehow and still make him likable, you know?
Oh, yeah, and he totally was. Like, I was in it to win it with Luke Anthony. I was like...
Oh, for sure.
You are good to go. I thought it was really interesting, too, because when we first meet him, we meet him in werewolf form, and he's actually chasing Chastity's sister.
Right,
and so I feel like this was the first romance I've ever read where the first interaction isn't even between him and Chastity. It's between him and her sister. Because I was like thinking, oh, okay, so it's going to be about Luke and Victory. Got it. And then at the end of chapter 1, you find out he's not into Victory. He was attracted to the scent of the jacket that she was wearing, which belongs to Chastity. Mm-hmm. I mean, chapter 1 twist, here we go.
It was a really interesting way to set that up for sure. Yeah, I don't know if I have much more to add than that, but yes, it was an interesting way to set it up because I didn't really know where it was going at all.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And you know what? I was okay with that too. Like I feel like one of the things that draws me to romance, and we talked about this a little bit already, is I'm kind of drawn to the fact that it's a little predictable, that you know how it's going to end, you know what these characters are going to go through. And so sometimes when you have a story that's less predictable, it can almost feel, it can almost take you out of the romance just because you're like, wait, why is this happening? Like this is going against all the rules. But this one, when it did kind of, you know, make those jumps, you know, when he, you know, first meets Victory instead of Chastity, I was into it. I was kind of like, it was more of like a mystery, like an intrigue to it.
Yeah, I think it definitely helped heighten the drama. I think that's definitely what that did.
Especially for a short book, I feel like you need that. Like, it's, you know, otherwise...
Because it pulls you in immediately.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a whole lot of time to get things done, you know?
Exactly. And so sometimes with novellas, I feel like it can also feel very rushed. Like, the romance can be like, oh my God, all of a sudden they're together, you know? But I feel like it was a good pacing throughout the story as far as like their romance went too.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, so the whole idea there too is that he knew, I don't know, because of the stars or whatever, that she was his fated mate.
Because of the stars.
I feel like there was something about stars in there. Yeah, so she's his fated mate, and so it kind of gives this excuse to like rush things, but they still made it believable as well. So I think that was really working for the length of the story.
Yeah, especially because he was so, like, I mean, as they start kind of, I guess you would call it dating, they kind of date. He asks her out on a date on, you know, for Halloween, and it's not like I have read stories before where there's like mates involved and matings, and usually the male character is the one mating the female character, and they're very aggressive about it. And that was also kind of something that was different about this story that I appreciated, was that Luke was very much into Chastity, and he wanted to mate her, but he was also very respectful of kind of the fact that she's human, and that, you know, if you're not ready to do that and you just want to date me and, you know, get to know me, that's fine too.
Yeah, I really liked that because because there's less pressure on the whole situation. Because that's one of those things where I would have found it a little bit less believable if he was trying to force it and be all super alpha male or whatever. The fact that he was willing to come to her level, and also the fact that he was feeling some trepidation because he was intimidated by her,
right,
made it a lot more real for me.
Well, and how can you not be intimidated by a woman who stabs you on your first date?
Right, yeah. And he loved it.
Yeah, he was so into it. That was, okay, I like for sure like laughed out loud when I was reading.
Oh, me too. I was cracking up. It was it was just one of those things where I was like, wow, he is adorable. Like, this whole thing is adorable, even though like they're naked and she's trying to murder him right now. Like, I still find it super cute.
Yeah. This story is all about the sex and violence, but like not like in a creepy way. Like more of like, let's make out. Oh, by the way, I'm supposed to kill you for my family. Like
somehow sex and violence becomes really charming in this novella.
Yeah. Oh, you know, that cute sex and violence. Oh man, so cute. But yeah, no, I mean, it really was. And the whole, you know, not to give too many things away, but the whole kind of story behind that is just that, you know, Chastity comes from Chastity comes from this family of hunters and huntresses who have been kind of tasked with, you know, getting rid of the werewolves, hunting the werewolves. And we learn very early on, when Luke kind of exposes himself to Chastity and she knows who he is, and she knows who he is, that he's a werewolf, but he is not one of the rabid werewolves. Like, he can control himself and everything. And that's not something that she and her family were aware of. And, you know, but before she knows that, she stabs him on their date. But, you know, and it's cute how they all, I have to say, I did definitely predict where they were going with like the Oracle, you know, story about how if she kills, her first kill will like rip out her heart. I was like, oh, it's because he loves her and she loves him. It's going to rip out her heart. Not really.
Right. Yeah, no, that was the first thing I thought, was like, oh yeah, because they're going to fall in love, you mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, if you didn't know it was a romance, like maybe you wouldn't make that leap, but it's a romance novel. So you're kind of like, oh yeah, we can't rip out her heart. Yeah. He is her heart. Yeah, so we love Luke. What did you think of Chastity, besides her name?
Yeah, aside from her name, I did really like her. Just both of these characters were written in a way that I loved both of them. You know, I was really rooting for them the whole time. Yeah. And just the fact that, I don't know, she came so prepared and she was so focused, because on their first date she stabs him and they get in a fight or whatever, and she's so focused the entire time, and it was cool because I was like, wow, you're so badass, you know. And I've kind of been flipping through it here trying to find like a quote to pull from that, but it was cute because he you know, he said like, I don't know, something along the lines of like, oh, like he loved his bloodthirsty mate or something, or like, oh wow, she was bloodthirsty, he loved her more. And I was just like, oh, that's adorable, you know?
Yeah, he was like so impressed
Right.
with her, and like, you know, how steadfast she is and how strong she is. He's like, oh my gosh, she can do anything. I mean, except kill me, but I don't want her
Right.
to kill me.
Here's a good quote that
Yeah.
I did pull. He's admiring her body like while she's literally like about to kill him. And it says she threw more silver over him, and Luke remembered that he was supposed to be fighting for his life or whatever. And that was it. Like, it's just funny. And then it goes on to say, perhaps he could make her smile. He did love making her smile. Then she whipped out a pistol. Like, oh.
You know how that goes.
His mind's just not there. Yeah, he's just completely somewhere else. And it was, I thought it was hilarious.
There was another funny moment I loved where, you know, the whole idea is that they're going to watch a like scary movie at his place in the woods, because that's not creepy.
Yeah, right.
For their first date, like go to this guy's house in the woods. And I thought it was really funny that, you know, he mentions that he only has like VHS tapes. Like he has a VHS player. And she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I haven't gotten a DVD player yet. And she's like, okay, well, no, but like, have you heard of like Netflix or like streaming? And then what cracked me up is like a few pages later, there's a quote where it says, he references wrestling. He says he'd intended to find and spank his mate for fucking up a perfectly good coffee table with her WWE shenanigans, and also to have a serious conversation with her about how loving couples shouldn't stab each other.
Yes.
And I was
so good.
I was just like, oh my God, this is so cute. I love his tone. Also, why does he know about WWE, but he doesn't know what DVD players are? Like, I just had so many questions about what this guy knows about going on in the world.
Yeah, I need to know so much more about his life. Like, I have so many questions.
I'm like,
for sure.
yeah, so he watches wrestling, but he doesn't socialize with people, and he has a VHS player, and he likes cookies.
Maybe he records all of the wrestling shows on VHS.
I'd be down with that. That. Yeah.
Because he doesn't have a DVR, obviously. So.
No. That's too much. That's beyond.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there were just a lot of like, it kind of reminds me of those stories and movies that they make with like the, oh God, there's a word to describe it, but there's like the idiosyncrasies of like A Knight's Tale, where like it takes place in obviously a time completely different from our own, but they reference like Nike and they play, you know, Queen and, you know, all these things where it kind of reminded me of a story like that, where it's taking place in modern day, but we have werewolves, we have magical oracles, we have all these things that are just so normal in the context of the story that like would not be normal in our lives. But I love that. I feel like it was just such a seamless blend of like, yeah, it's not cool to stab the person you're on a date with, but you know, whatever. She's so great.
And that's what it is that the author made it very seamless. Like, because I feel like there's, you know, some romance or not, some writers who write things that are, you know, more fantastical that take place in this day and age, like make a big deal out of it.
Yes.
But she did such a great job at not making a big deal out of it that it just slipped us directly into their lives, basically. Like, it just felt like we were just going along with them for the journey instead of getting caught up on all of the weird fantastical stuff. And I really, really appreciated that.
And you know what? I mean, that's just to credit Talia Hibbert for like everything that she does. She has contemporary romance. She has this whole, I think it's a series where it's like, British royalty, like, but it's like more modern. But they call it the British, an interracial romance, dirty British series. And I'm just like, she does so many different types of books. And I feel like everything I've read from her has just been so seamless in terms of like the world building. Like I almost wish this book was a full length novel. Like
I was gonna say if it was a series, I would, I would be down with that too. Yeah, it almost leaves you wanting more a little bit.
Right. And so
or just more from this world, because obviously the characters had like a great, nicely neat wrapped story, but I really enjoyed the world they were in.
Oh, same. Yeah. And I almost wonder, maybe there are more books in this world. And if there's not, I know that I'd love to see them. I want to know more about her, Chastity's sister and her family. And, are there other werewolves like Luke that are, not rabid, that exist and coexist? Do they team up and like fight evil together? Like,
well, and even if, just talking about all of the sisters being huntresses, how do you go on normal dates when that's like what your family business is? What does your life look like? Do you date normal people or do you date other hunters and huntresses?
Plus they live in the woods. I feel like your dates are limited. Like, what are your options? So, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Talia Hibbert. I'm a fan of this setting that she created, and I do want more. I'm definitely looking for more interracial werewolf huntress romances. Like, I do not have enough.
Yes, I agree. I'll sign that petition.
How about, was there anything that, besides Chastity's name, was there anything else that sort of stood out to you or irked you, or just something that you weren't as much a fan of in the book?
I'm trying to find, there were just a few things that I highlighted that I thought didn't sit well with me, and I think it was just like the phrasing or something. But and going back to that first date again, like I just was really hung up on it, I guess. But it mentions that she wrapped silver chains around her upper thighs to restrain him with, and I just put a note that was just WTF, because I was trying to imagine what that looks like. Like what does that mean, And then later it kind of describes them as like thin silver chains, but still I was like, so what, you took like some necklaces and like wrapped it around your legs or what? Like what do you mean you put chains around your thighs? Like, what are you talking about?
And I'm just like, girlfriend, maybe it's just because I got big thighs, but I'm like, how are those staying up on your legs?
Right.
Like what? I was like picturing almost like garter belts, but like made of silver. But I don't know. I'm with you. I was like, okay, they're up her skirt, but how?
Yeah, that almost, no, I was just so confused there. And then the other thing that was, I don't know, I just put gross. She kept describing Luke's body hair as crisp.
And you didn't like that?
I don't know what that means. No, I hate it. I don't like that description at all. And I just was thinking about crunchy body hair, like when I see crisp, and I was so upset by it that it pulled me out.
What's the first thing you think of when you hear the word crisp? Like, what is an okay thing to associate crisp with?
Like fried chicken? Like, I don't, like food?
Okay, yeah,
maybe?
Good. I was gonna say, I think of like a crisp apple, like even like a crisp like fall breeze, I'm like, okay, but yeah, body hair, that just sounds really crunchy.
She said it a lot.
It sounds like he like gelled his like body hair and it like dried and was like the crispy after effects of gel.
Oh, if only you could see the face I'm making right now. Like, I'm not happy with that picture in my head at all.
Yeah, no, me neither. It's getting worse and worse by the second.
Right. So those are my two big things that I just was not. And then you mentioned cake batter sex.
Yeah.
Which I think that's sure, that's sexy or whatever, but
like a UTI waiting to happen.
Right. And then also, like Chastity, I was concerned for his bed sheets, but he didn't care. So
yeah.
She even said the sheets were going to get stained. So at least she was thinking about that too.
Yeah. Like, I'm glad there was still, some level of realism. Like, she's like, wait a second. This is, because I thought for sure that was going to be like shower sex. Like, I'm like, oh, you got dirty.
Oh,
so get in the shower. But he like took her to the bed. I'm like, ew.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
he's already got crispy body hair, so I mean, I guess what's a little cake batter, right?
Because apparently Luke is a dirty, dirty man.
God, like, I know you're a werewolf, but bruh, like, take a shower.
My new headcanon is that, yeah, he's just like covered in just random filth, I suppose, because he just doesn't have a shower, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's gross. That's gross. Yeah, no, I'm with you. So it seems like it was more of just sort of like some of the word choice and like phrasing that like stood out to you.
No, that's pretty much it. And I think that that's kind of what I was maybe almost expecting too, because when you think of, like, I feel like to the uninitiated, when you think of a romance novel, you think of these like lurid descriptions of things that are like,
right.
you know, like it's supposed to be like over the top visualization and stuff. And so I was kind of keeping an eye out for that, I think. And nothing was super over the top except for like those things that I previously mentioned.
No, and I think those are definitely good to point out. Especially, I'm never going to get crisp body hair out of my head now. Like, I don't think I've ever, maybe that's another UK thing. Maybe that's a British thing, is like, she's so crisp.
Is that what they think is attractive? Like,
I don't know, crisp?
I mean, I know there's different like beauty standards around the world, like
but crisp or crispy. Yeah, no, I don't know. It's getting worse and worse. Like,
I know.
For me, I think the only thing that stood out to me as being like maybe a little odd or unexpected, and I feel like this is something that if it was a full-length romance novel would be more part of the story, is I was shocked how easily her family was like willing to accept this romance that she had with Luke. Like, they were just kind of like, oh yeah, like, we knew he was a werewolf, but you know, you like him? All right, go for it.
Yeah, I feel like that was probably one of the issues of the book being so short. Like, if it was longer, maybe that strife would have been explored.
Yeah.
But since it was such a short novella, it was just kind of like, all right, well, her family's supportive, so.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Which again, is kind of rare. Like, it's one of those unexpected things that I can get on board with. Like, so part of it is refreshing in the fact that, like, they're not just like, what? How dare you? Get out of our family, you know? So I appreciate that we have a supportive family, but at the same time, I think what it was less of them not having a problem with him and more of the fact that it was kind of like they were the ones that talked her into this romance with him, like, and helped her realize the prophecy and everything was about, you know, being in love. I kind of wanted more of the realization and like the effort to come from Chastity as opposed to like, you know, her family being like, oh, but he loves you. You love him. Oh my gosh, this is fulfilling the prophecy. If you kill him, your heart will break. Like, I wanted her to figure this out. I wanted her to have more agency.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because because that's supposed to be like the kind of classic, like, I can't think of a better term than like come to Jesus moment, you know, where like the hero is set on the correct path. And it did end up being a little bit more external. Like, like, I understand that, like, her family helps her realize, but it was more, now that you're mentioning it, it was more just like they told her and she was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that wasn't not super compelling.
More of like the come to Jesus, like, let us help you set you on the right path, as opposed to like an aha moment. Like, I figured it out, you know? So, which, again, I think it was kind of like a mix of trying to, you know, make sure that the family was okay with it at the same time of her having this realization. But it was like, again, I mean, this is one of those things when it's a shorter story that I'm like, maybe if this was longer, it would work out that way, or, you know, I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, other than that though, I think for what it is, for 136 pages, I think she did a tremendous job telling like a full, complete story.
Oh, I agree. I mean, yeah, it's, again, I was super in love with the characters, which is exactly what you want, and in love with the world that she built, and satisfied with the ending. So,
oh my gosh, the ending is like one of my favorite parts, because I love nothing more than like a to be continued kind of happily ever after. Like, we don't see them get married immediately and have children. It's, hey, I love you. I love you. Let's try this. I'm like, yes, that is the modern like 2019 ending I want.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like it kind of sets it up to be like, look, it's the beginnings of a stable relationship. And everyone's like, that's all I want. So,
I know. That's all I want to read. That's all I want in real life.
Right.
There's not a lot. I'm not asking for a lot here. But yeah, so any other thoughts about the book before we dive into our excerpts?
No, I don't think I have much to add. I just overall super, super happy with the read. So
awesome. Well, I'm glad that we chose this one then. That was like such a
great pick.
Meant to be book. Yay.
For sure.
Exciting. Okay, did you have a specific excerpt or sexy moment that you wanted to read or talk about?
So I did bad on my homework and I didn't actually pull the excerpt, but my favorite moment was definitely their alleyway hookup.
Nice.
Because it felt so like clandestine. Am I saying that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was sexy and forbidden at that moment, you know, like they wanted it so bad, and there was like this power exchange thing happening that I was super into. So that was definitely my favorite moment.
That's a good one. Mine is definitely and you know what? They have while they have a lot of really good hookup scenes, they actually don't have sex until like much later in the story.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I am all about the foreplay scenes. So this comes in right after. This is during the moment where they are like covered in cake batter and they make it to the bed and everything. And she's like, "What are you doing? We'll get chocolate everywhere." And he's like, "I'm a guy. I don't care." But one of my favorite things about the Brits and when they speak is they use the word cunt. And I love it. I am a fan. I love the word cunt. So
yes,
here's a couple excerpts. I'll give you a few because, you know, the more cunt, the better.
Yes.
So here's one, and we say, "And then he was pushing her legs up and out of his way, his fingers digging into her thighs, his face pressed against her cunt. Her whole body jolted as shock and pleasure twisted their way through her veins, white hot and electric. She felt him inhale, breathing her in, nuzzling her labia in a way that made her clit throb and her wetness grow. She could feel fine rivulets of her own arousal trailing from her slick entrance down the curve of her arse." I mean...
yeah, that's hot.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, that's very good.
On the very next page, I just like this one sentence a lot. "Then he lowered his head and licked her from cunt to clit, his broad tongue spreading her folds."
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, I'm not as big into the folds or the labia, but
right.
Cunt to clit.
That's a great visualization for sure.
That could be another podcast title, I feel like.
I like that. Yeah, I'll make a note of that.
That could be the next one that you start. Cunt to clit.
Yeah, it'll be about erotica and porn only.
That's fantastic. I'm all, again, I would totally listen. So I think we've kind of covered all the wonderful things about this short story, Mating the Huntress. And if you haven't checked out any more of Talia Hibbert's work, I definitely recommend you do so.
I think I will be.
Yeah, I think you will be. I think I will be too, because I hadn't read one of hers in a long time, and I think I've only ever read more of her contemporary work. So I'm interested to see what other kind of magical paranormal stories she's got up her sleeve.
Yeah, I want to look for that too.
Yeah. Okay, so it seems like you might have found your niche.
Yeah, I think so. I think I did.
Good. There you go. It was waiting for you this whole time. You just had to find it.
Know. Yeah, that's my romance story. Is falling in love with romance books.
Oh, I love it. You just made my day. Okay, well, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to give this book a few grades, and we're going to grade for story, syntax, and sexcapades on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the very best that it could possibly be. So how about just the story? What would you give it out of 10?
I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Like, again, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. And the only reason it's not getting like a full 10 is because of the the family part that we did talk about. Like, she could have taken, I don't know, 10 more pages to explore that maybe.
Yeah, no, I think that's solid. I gave it like an 8.5, 9 for like the exact same reasons. I was just kind of like feeling like there was maybe a little bit missing with the family and like their feelings on Luke, and then also Chastity sort of making more decisions for herself. So, but other than that, I'm with you. I was on board. How about syntax? So, Miss Talia Hibbert's writing style, word choice.
I'm gonna I gotta knock it down because of crisp body hair.
I know. Yeah, that's gonna take at least a point off of it.
But yeah, I don't know, but her word choice, I mean, like, you just read those excerpts and they were extremely, evocative, and I think that she did a great job with that. So I'd probably give it an 8, I think.
Okay. Yeah, no, sounds good. I gave it a 9. I didn't focus as much on the word choice as you did, but
I'm so hung up on it.
Well, and now that we've discussed it, I was like, you know what? Could have been a 9.5 without that crisp body hair, but she did use cunt several times. So,
Very good, yeah.
That's already a 10 in my book. How about the sexcapades?
I'm going to give the sexcapades, I think I'm going to give those an 8 out of 10 too. I know they were like building up to the actual like intercourse scenes, but I honestly probably would have liked to see one of those sooner. Yeah. Just waiting until the very end was like, it was okay.
Yeah. No, I thought they were for sure going to have sex when it was the whole scene of the like cake batter and they were on the bed. He's got like his dick ready to go. And then he's like, I want to mate you. And she all of a sudden like jumps out of the moment. Like,
I mean, that's a huge mood killer, so I don't blame her.
Right. No, exactly. But I was like, oh, this was the time. Like,
right.
So I'm with you. I'd probably give that one also like an 8, 8.5. But what there was, I thought was super hot. And the word choice is great. There's a good variety. I know I love some variety in my sex scenes. So I did like that. I don't like as much being covered in food because it's dirty, but but it's a little iffy. In theory, it's sexy.
Right. Exactly. It's all about the theory, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a fantasy. It's not real life.
It is. Yeah. I mean, although this is a real life I'd be okay with. I would be okay with having a coffee shop in the woods with friendly werewolves.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd be totally cool with that.
Yeah. In England. Like, I mean, that just sounds fantastic to me. I am all about it.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear and safe to say that you maybe enjoyed this book.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely enjoyed this book, and the world of romance novels has been opened up to me.
Oh, I'm so glad. So I mean, besides, it seems like maybe fantasy and paranormal romance might be like the way to go for you. But are there any other styles of romance you'd be willing to kind of explore or just read more romance in general?
Yeah, I think like my brain immediately goes to like cowboy and western stuff.
Girl, you are speaking my language.
And that is definitely because of where I live first. And then second, like I grew up around horses and stuff too. So like that is that's romantic to me for sure. Yes. So I'm going to have to try some of those out.
Okay. Well, we've done a few cowboy romance podcast episodes, so I can definitely recommend a few to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm also kind of a fan of the motorcycle club type romance.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Just because I always think of them kind of as like cowboys, except instead of a horse, it's a motorcycle.
I mean, they pretty much are. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, good. Okay, well, awesome. I mean, it seems like I'm so glad that, you kind of had this nice little shift in perspective while reading the book.
Yeah, it was great. It was a wonderful experience.
Yay. Well, I'm so glad that you did this. And, thank you obviously for reading and joining me. And I wish you all the best of luck with The Broads and the Bees.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, I can't wait to hear what you guys, decide to podcast about. And I feel like there has to be an episode about romance and erotica.
Oh, there definitely will be now. Now there will be.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much again. And we'll just have to talk more book recs after this.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yay.